What's up everyone, Adam here from Cape Crawlers, and this is the Tall Tire Throwdown. Welcome back to the channel guys, got a great video for you today. We're going to look at tires, all about big tires in particular. So we've got three of the most popular tall tires for the SCX124s on the market right now. We have got Little Guy Racing Parts Trail Kings, RC4WD Scramblers, and the new kid on the block, the new Injora Mud Terrains. So these are some of the three most popular ones on the market right now. I picked the Scramblers as the representative for RC4WD because I could have put in the Mudslingers, which is also a super popular tall tire, but we're gonna let the Scramblers represent RC4WD in this one because I honestly think the Scramblers are more popular than the Mudslingers. So we're going to go with this trio right here. And plus, this is all I have in my inventory. So we're going to have to make do with what we've got. But hey, if you've got more suggestions, happy to do a follow-up in some of these upcoming videos. So let me know in the comments down below if there are more tires that we should take a look at. But in the meantime, we're going to look at these three big boys right here. All right, let me tell you how this is going to work. So we're going to look at these guys in three different categories. We're going to look at the specifications, we're going to look at value, bang for the buck, and we're going to look at performance. We're going to score them in each one of those criterias. Then we're going to roll up the scores to see if we can identify a clear winner out of these three bad boys. So let's start it off with the specifications. Let's go. All right, let's kick it off with the specs here. Let's look at the specifications of each one. Let's start it off with the new kids on the block here, the Injora Mud Terrains. So this is a great new tire from Injora. It's got a super aggressive lug pattern on it. Looks a lot like the Mudslingers from RC4WD. It's got a great soft sticky compound to it. These are just a big aggressive meaty looking tire. Really cool. So look at the specs on these. These are 2.44 inches tall or 62 millimeters. They are 0.81 inches wide or 20.5 millimeters. Right, next up, let's look at the Scramblers, the OG Scramblers by RC4WD. Great tire here. You know, these are super soft and sticky compound, excellent grip on a variety of different terrains. I'd say more of a scale look if you're looking to do an aggressive big tire but maintain more of a scale look with your build. This is a great option. So let's look at the specs on these guys. So the Scrambler is 2.43 inches tall or 61.7 millimeters. It is 0.87 inches wide or 22.2 millimeters. Now let's look at the Trail Kings by Little Guy Racing Parts. Trail Kings are the biggest, baddest dude on the block as far as tires go for the little SCX124s. They're the tallest, they're the widest, they're a big, sticky, soft, grippy tire. You know, these are just super cool looking just because of the sheer size and mass of these things. Look at the specs on these guys. Trail Kings are 2.48 inches tall or 64 millimeters. They are 0.94 inches wide or 24 millimeters. So let's do a comparison of these three guys here. So just as the specs pointed out, you can see the Trail King is the tallest and the widest of the bunch. It clearly is. The Scrambler is the second widest and I would say the third tallest. The Injora Mud Terrains are the second tallest and the third widest, but by a pretty narrow margin there. They are pretty close as far as the Scramblers and the Mud Terrains go. The Trail Kings are clearly in a league of their own as far as height and width here. To put that in perspective, if we look at a stock tire, this gives you an idea of just how big any one of these tires are. It's a huge difference from the stock tires. Let's look at it one by one here. So looking at the Mud Terrains, So aggressive, so much bigger and beefier than the stock tire. Whole new animal. Look at the Scrambler. Again, significantly taller and wider than the stock tire. Huge upgrade there. And then the Trail Kings. Just a monster. Totally dwarfs the stock tire. Looks like you could fit probably 2 of these inside one Trail King by the looks of it. So any one of these, it's a huge step up from the stock tires. You're going to get lots of clearance. You're going to get much bigger footprint and stability with any one of these tires. Let's talk about the weight. So I did weigh each one of these sets of 4. They're on identical wheels with identical foams, and the weight was very close. So I came in, Trail Kings were 104 grams, I believe, for the set of 4. The Scramblers were the lightest at 97 grams, and the Mud Terrains were right in the middle at 101 grams. So very close from a weight perspective, about 7 grams separating all of them in the full spectrum as far as weight goes. So let's talk about price as well. So the cost for a set of 4 of these tires, you can get a set of 4 Little Guy Racing Parts tires directly from littleguyracingparts.com. You can get a set of 4 for $26. The RC4WD Drive Scramblers come in pairs, so you have to get 2 pairs of these, and they run about $12 each. So you can get a set of 4 Scramblers for about $24. The Injoras come in a set of 4, and you can grab a set of 4 of these guys on Amazon for $15. So that's it for the numbers and the specs on these guys. But how do they perform? Numbers and specs don't mean anything if they don't perform in the real world. So let's run these guys. So I'm going to tell you how this is going to work. We're going to take each one of these, we're going to put them on the Gladiator, and we're going to do some runs on the outdoor course. We're going to equate the situation as much as possible. So they are all mounted on the same rims. They're all on the RC4WD Drive stamped steel bead locks. They are all vented. They are all running the Crawler Innovations Lil Nova soft foams in them. So as far as a tire and wheel and foam setup, they're identical. We're going to put them on the Gladiator with fresh batteries for each run, and we're going to do 1 full run on the course. We're going to go to and from, and then we're going to do 2 or 3 different challenge lines to see how they hook up and how they perform in different scenarios on the rock course. So I'm excited to try this out. This is going to be kind of the make or break, kind of the do or die moment. So let's get these on the Gladiator and see how they go. We got the Gladiator ready to go. So in order to make all things as equal as possible, the Gladiator will get a fresh battery fully charged on each run. So I will also be filming this with the tripod from various angles because I don't want any variance in trying to do it one-handed while holding the camera. So we're going to try to even the playing field as much as possible by eliminating all of the human error aspects as well. All right, now for the hard part. Now we got to score these bad boys and see if we can come up with a clear winner. So let's see what we got. So our 3 categories were specifications by the numbers, value, bang for the buck, and performance. So I scored these 1 through 3 on each category, 3 being the highest, best score, 1 being the lowest. So we're going to go through and we're going to tally these guys up category by category and see if we can identify a winner based on the scores that we've given them. So let's jump in. So first category, specifications by the numbers. Got to give this one to the Trail Kings. It's the biggest, it's by far the widest, the tallest by a pretty significant margin. Both visually you can just easily tell that it's an all-around bigger tire. So first place in the specs goes to the Trail Kings. On paper, it's the clear winner here. Second place in this category, I'm going to give the nod to the Injoras. They are taller, very similar width, but what tips the scales in this competition for me is the super aggressive, the gnarly tread pattern on here. So despite the width disadvantage, I think the Injoras pull out a second place here just based on the tread design and the overall aggressiveness of the tire. Scramblers coming in third place here, again just based on the fact that they're the smallest from a height perspective. They were a close second in the width category to the Injoras, but again we just give the nod to the Injoras just based on the tread pattern, the aggressiveness of the tire. Category number 2, value, bang for the buck. Hands down, got to give this one to the Injora. I mean, $15 for a set of aggressive, soft, meaty, great performing tires like these guys is a bargain. These are a steal at $15. It's crazy that they're almost half the price of the other 2 contenders. So clear winner here is the Injoras in the bang for the buck category. Second place is going to be the Scramblers because they're a couple bucks cheaper than the Trail Kings. One could make an argument that for the extra size and mass that you get for the Trail Kings, these could come out pretty much even. The extra couple bucks, it might be worth it to get the performance from the Trail Kings and just the overall bigger tire. But looking at it purely from a dollars perspective, you can grab a set of Scramblers for generally a couple bucks less than the Trail Kings. And for that reason, we're going to give second place to the Scramblers and we're going to give third to the Trail Kings just on the basis that they're the most expensive set of tires here. Last category, number 3, performance. This was a tough one, and I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. If you've run these tires, if you experienced similar performance to what I did. But we looked at them on the rocky course that I have in the backyard. Primarily some slick rock. I've got some cinder blocks out there, some landscaping material out there. So it's a rocky, kind of square-edged, slick course. So that was the terrain that we had for this competition. Had we been somewhere else, it might have been different. But that's what we're using for this competition. So let's talk about the results. So in my opinion, I think the Scramblers perform the best. They just grip so well. It was unbelievable. I haven't run the Scramblers in a while, so it was surprising to me when I was driving the Gladiator and they hooked up so well. I mean, on that first challenge line, they gripped so hard, they almost wrapped around themselves and gripped to the point where they twisted the Gladiator into a pretzel. I had to do kind of a multiple point attack on that obstacle because it was gripping so hard, it was just twisting the Gladiator into knots. And going throughout the rest of the course on the vertical kind of slick rock surfaces and the landscaping brick, they just hooked up so well. They did so good on the rocks. So I've got to give performance to the Scramblers in this regard as the top performer out there. Second place was tough. I'm going to give second place to the Trail Kings on the basis that they're more stable. I think they produce better handling. And on the vertical climbs and the more slick surfaces, I think they did a better job than the Injoras. This was a really, really close one. And as you can see from the video, these two, they both had their strengths and weaknesses. But what really stuck out to me with the Trail Kings was the extra dampening and the clearance you get from these big tires. There's so much rubber there and foam, you could almost hear it squish. You could almost hear the tires squishing when the Gladiator would come down off an obstacle and hit a rock edge. They just conform so well and are so planted. And watching the video with the Scramblers and the Injoras, a couple of you're getting up on the top of the flat brick obstacle, the Gladiator would slide off to the side because these two just weren't wide enough and weren't planted enough to keep the Gladiator up on that high line there. For that reason, I think the course runs, the Trail Kings dominated just the general course runs. These guys were just so planted, and the handling and the grip overall in general, they just did a great job. So I'm going to give second place just by a very thin margin to the Trail Kings here. Third place, I'm going to give it to the Injoras here, and it was a very thin margin. They performed so well out there, especially on the square-edged obstacles. That's where they really seemed to shine, was coming up over kind of the brick, the landscaping brick, and the hard-edged rock. This meaty tread design really grabbed on and would yank the Gladiator up over those obstacles better than the other two. But I did notice with the handling that they would understeer. Going into particularly the downhill corner on the return line on the course, they really understeered and would push the front end off the course and made it difficult to steer in those different conditions. And I think it's just because of this super aggressive lug pattern. These would be much more at home in a looser terrain, a dirt, a sand, certainly a mud type of terrain. They would really shine out there. But for our rock course, they seemed to struggle on the handling department just because it wanted to understeer in a lot of those situations. And that's what really kind of tipped the scales to the Trail Kings as far as second place performance goes, was the handling aspect of it out on those rocks. All three of them did phenomenally well. You're not going to go wrong with any one of these tires. They're exceptional. They all do a great job out there. They hooked up so well on that terrain. I mean, I was just having a blast. It was a wicked fun time out there. So great tires, but this is how I'm going to score them right here. Okay, let's wrap this up. You ready to find out who the winner is? Drum roll, please. It's a three-way tie. Crazy, right? I told you it was going to be hard, but that's how the scores came out. So we had, in the specs, we had the Trail Kings as the winner, Mud Terrains second, Scramblers first. In the value department, we had Trail Kings third, Injoras first, Scramblers second. And in the performance categories, we had the Trail Kings second, the Injoras third, and the Scramblers as first. I scored each one of the categories. The highest you could get was a 3, the lowest you could get was a 1. Added up all the scores, they each scored 6 points. So I don't have any clear answers for you. So where does that leave us? We didn't have a clear winner because one tire won each of the categories. So it kind of puts us in a tough spot because they're all great for different reasons. You can't go wrong with any one of these tires. You really can't. I bought all of these for personal use, and I love all these tires. They work exceptionally well, and I've totally enjoyed driving my rigs with these tires, all these tires on there. So you can't go wrong with these tires. I think it really depends on what you're looking for. I think if you don't want to go super duper big, you want to maintain that somewhat scale look, and you want real grippy performance, particularly on rocks, I'd say the Scramblers. If you want that super gnarly, aggressive, still somewhat scale, I think you got to go with the Mud Terrains. I mean, these are just, they're so gnarly looking, and the tread is so aggressive, and they just work so good. I could imagine that out in the mud, out in the sand, out in kind of loose terrain, I think the Mud Terrains would work exceptionally well. If you're after just the biggest, baddest dude on the block, you got to go with the Trail Kings. They are the tallest, so you're going to get the most clearance. They are the widest, so you're going to get the widest footprint, more stability. They are super soft, and they They hook up great in a variety of different terrains. So it's tough to go wrong with these big boys. Can't go wrong with any of them, honestly. So I don't have a clear answer for you all. So I think picking a winner really comes down to what you want to do with your build. You know, what do you want it to look like? How do you want it to perform? What terrain are you on for the most part? And then kind of, use your judgment based on that. And you can also just try them out. Buy a set, try it for a month or two, buy another set, and do the same thing. That's how I amassed these tires. I bought them because I was chasing performance and I was experimenting with performance. So that's how I wound up with these three. And I've had great experiences with all of them. So I'm really happy with all of them. And this was a fun contest. Although we didn't get a lot of resolution, we still got some good time on the tires. We got to compare them in a lot of different ways. And I hope this gave you a bunch of good information when you're looking at maybe putting some of these on your build. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the tall tire throwdown. Didn't have a clear, decisive winner just because all three of these are great tires and they all shine in their own respective areas. So you can't go wrong with any one of these tires. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I really want to try to grow the channel. Again,